Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my first book haul of 2023. But before getting into the books, I just want to tell you guys some things. I know that I've not been that consistent for the past 4 to 5 months, and that's because of the reason that I've been a bit burnt out for the past 4 to 5 months, and it is due to a lot of reasons. Now we have moved into a newer apartment, and that's why you can see a new bookshelf and a new setup behind me. I bought some new bookshelves. I made a new setup for filming videos other than the bookshelves which will be shown in the further videos. And if I'm sounding a bit weird, it's because I'm having a cold. So please bear with me, and I assure you that you can see even more consistent videos from the time this video is published in the channel. So without any more further ado, let's get into the books right away. I have a total of 16 books here, of which 2 are series. I'll be talking about the series first and then we'll move on to the standalone books. I have both fiction as well as non-fiction here, but most of them are just fantasy books. So if you're watching my channel mainly for the fantasy books, you're in for a treat in this video. So let's get into the series first and then I'll talk about the standalone books. The first series in this book haul is The Shades of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is an adult fantasy series and I've heard mixed things about this, but from most people whom I trust on booktube and who have the same taste like me on booktube, I've heard only really good things. The first book in the series is A Darker Shade of Magic, the second one is A Gathering of Shadows, and the last and final one is A Conjuring of Light. Now in this series we follow our main character Kel, who's a traveler in this world, and a traveler is a person who can travel between different universes using a portal city like London, which is inside this book. We have 3 different kinds of London. The first one is Grey London, where magic is completely abolished and it is ruled by this mad king named George III. Next we have Red London, where magic is respected a lot and it is treated really well by the people. Finally we have White London, where there's only a little magic left and the people who are existing in White London are trying to control the magic and the magic is rebelling against them. Apart from these 3 Londons, there also used to be a Black London, which I think will be explored a lot more within the next books inside the series. My personal experience with V.E. Schwab has been really good from all the books that I have read from her in the past. There have been some books which I did not like a lot, but each and every time I've been a fan of her writing as well as the setups that she provides because she has such a great imaginative power and such cool ideas. I'm planning to binge read the series in February, so by the time you're watching this video, I will have started reading the first book. The next one is also another adult fantasy series, and it is the Winternight trilogy by Katherine Arden. The 3 books inside the series are The Bear and the Nightingale and The Winter of the Witch. Now I have been wanting to read this series for the past 4 years because my most favorite booktuber Sam has been raving about the series ever since 2018 or 2019, and I've been waiting for the series to get finished, and for the past 2 years I have not gotten my hands on it. Finally, I bought the series and I'm sure that I'm going to read it pretty soon. I've heard that this series is very atmospheric in its nature, that the author's writing actually makes you feel the chills of the atmosphere in which the story is written. Now, this series actually takes place in the northern end of Russia where it snows most of the year, and our main character Vasya is a person who can see ghosts and spirits partially, and she can also sense some dark magic that is going on in the woods. I have not seen anyone talking negative about the series in booktube as well as bookstagram over the past 3 to 4 years, and that itself is a lot more convincing for me to read the story because I have been wanting to read it for the past 4 years and I've not heard anything negative at all. And if you didn't know, the Grishaverse is one of my all-time favorite series, and I like the series especially for the setup because it is just incredibly well done by the author. I've heard this being compared to Shadow and Bone a lot in the past 2 to 3 years, ever since the show came out especially, so I will be getting to this series pretty soon. The next one is an adult contemporary romance, and it is also one book which has been so popular on booktube and bookstagram for the past 2 years. It is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Another reason why I want to read this book is because it was also recommended by Sam from Thoughts on Tones, because it was one of her favorite books from 2021 if I'm not wrong. And if you have been following me for quite a while, you know that I don't read a lot of romance books because I'm not that much attracted towards that genre. I have read the blurb from the back of the book, but I don't think I can summarize it to you guys without reading the book, so I'm just going to read it out from the back of the book. As a third-year PhD candidate, Olive Smith doesn't believe in lasting romantic relationships, but her best friend does, and that's what got her into this situation. Convincing Anne that Olive is on her way to a happily ever after was always going to be tough. Scientists require proof. So, like any self-respecting woman, Olive panics and kisses the first man she sees. That man is none other than Adam Carlson, a young hotshot professor and well-known ass, which is why Olive is positively floored when he agrees to keep her charade a secret and be her fake boyfriend. But when her big science conference goes haywire and Adam surprises her again with his unyielding support and his unyielding abs, their little experiment feels dangerously close to combustion. Olive soon discovers that the only thing more complicated than a hypothesis on love is putting her own heart under the microscope. That sounds cute as well as a lot convoluted for such a short book. Again, I'm going to read this in February because of Valentine's Day and everything. Let's just wait and see how it's going to go. The next one is a standalone adult fantasy book, and it is Piranesi by Suzanna Clark. This is one book which I heard Murphy Napier talking about in 2021, and ever since I watched her review of this one, I have been wanting to read this book so badly. Okay, but the only reason why I did not buy it is because it was very expensive for the length that it is. It's not even 250 pages long, but the hardcover of this one cost nearly 600 or 700 rupees. I'm not saying that that's a lot for a hardcover book, but I just don't think that I want to spend a lot for buying such a short book. So I just went forward and purchased the paperback copy because it was available at a cheaper price. So here we basically follow this creature called Piranesi, who's kind of like a centaur. He has the upper half of a human and the lower half of a goat or horse or some other kind of cattle, if I'm not wrong. And he's just entering into this weird little house or library of some sort, and he just travels to each and every room of the library, and each and every room has something to add on to the story, and towards the end we see something that is being revealed. I have been craving to read a lot of standalone fantasies lately, and I have been reading series only. This year I have decided to buy and read a lot more standalone fantasy books because I love standalone fantasies because they don't need that much of a commitment. At the same time, delivering magic with a strong story in a standalone fantasy is always difficult, and I know that many authors are doing a great job of it. So Piranesi is the next book. The next one is yet another standalone fantasy book, and I was a bit skeptical whether I want to buy this book or not because I did not like the other book by the author, but I loved the writing of the author and the way in which she made it atmospheric to an extent that I could actually feel the book in each and every sense. So the book which I've bought is The Starless C by Erin Morgenstern. I read The Night Circus in 2021 and I did not like it. Okay, I have a review of it talking about why I did not like it and why it did not work for me. Yet I enjoyed the writing of the author because it was just so good, and at the same time it was extremely atmospheric. Okay, one of my most favorite kinds of writing is super atmospheric writing, which can actually make me feel the place in which the story is taking place, and the author made an excellent job, the best job of putting me in the place and showing me the Night Circus. So I'm just expecting that kind of vibe from this one. I don't care about the story or the characters, nor do I have any expectations on them, because after reading The Night Circus I know that this author is not about the characters or the story but just the setup and the writing. I am a person who does enjoy beautiful prose a lot, so I'm definitely going to read this. And this is also a book in which the main character Zachary finds his own story as part of a book, and he knows that his story is going to end in some way in another book. He just finds out some clues from the book and goes in search for a story towards the library, and when time passes by the library just shrinks, and within the time ends he has to go and find the other book which just tells the end of his story. That sounds very magical, but I don't trust this author with the plot or the characters. I'm just going in for the setup and the beautiful writing. The next one is one of my most anticipated releases for 2022. I did not talk about this much in the channel, but I'm super excited to read this. It is the latest book inside a mythological retelling series, and it is War of Lanka by Amish, which is the fourth book inside the Ramchandra series. I have read all the first three books, Ram, Sita and Ravan, in 2020, and I should say of all the three books, Ram was my least favorite because it was a lot preachy. I loved Sita to such a great extent, there's nothing negative about that book at all. And at last Ravan, which was not as good as Sita, and it was far better than Ravan. The characterization of Ravan and Ravan was just great. I'm just planning to reread all those three books and then get back to War of Lanka because it's been over 2.5 years since I read all those three books and I don't retain as much of the story fresh in my mind. I want to go back, refresh the stories with a reread and then come forward and read War of Lanka. I'm also planning to do a review for each and every one of the four books as I finish reading them, because I have reviews for Sita and Ravan from the time when I started the channel, but I'm not satisfied with the quality or the way in which I made those reviews because they don't look that good. You can see that it's a huge book, right? But I'm sure that if I sit down and read, I'll be able to finish it in like 1 or 2 days max, because I trust in Amish Tripathi's writing style so much because he's super brilliant. So even though I did not talk much about this in the past year, it is a great series which I want to continue reading, and I'm definitely sure that I'm going to finish it this year. I just hope that I love it as much as I loved Sita. The next one is a non-fiction book, and it is Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion by Dr. Robert B. Cialdini. I have been wanting to read this book for the past 3 years, okay? I know that it is a huge book and I thought of listening to the audiobook, but I was not sure whether I wanted to listen to it in such a way because I don't retain a lot when it comes to listening audiobooks, especially when it comes to non-fiction. When it's fiction, it's easier for me to remember and retain because they are just stories, but non-fiction is not like that for me because it is mostly tips, tricks and questions being answered by the author. You can see that it is a huge book, right? I'm super interested in reading this. When it comes to psychology itself, it's a hugely fascinating subject for me and I want to properly study psychology sometime in the future. I'm sure that it is going to happen, but I don't know when. This book drew my attention a lot because of the title, okay? It's Influence, and I know that each and every one of us is being influenced by something or the other each and every day in our lives. I'm sure that most of the people watching this video, including including myself, are there on social media, and people who are social media influencers talk about a lot of products, either for collaborations or of their own will, and their opinions about the product and the relatability that we have with them makes us buy those products and use them properly. I'm sure that this is going to be a hugely fascinating read for me. Let's just wait and see how it is going to go. The last 5 books in this book haul are those books which I got for a collab which I did with Bookture in early December 2022, and of these 5 books, 2 books are those which I have read already and I just wanted physical copies of them because I know that I will go back and reread them. Of these 5, the first one which I am going to talk about is one which I already read, and I also reread it in January 2023 because I knew that it would motivate me a lot. It is How to Be a Bawse by Lilly Singh. I listened to the audiobook of this one in 2019, okay? So it's been 3 whole years, but trust me, when I went forward and reread the book, I almost remembered each and everything that she talked about here. I know that Lilly Singh is not an author for everyone because she has her own kind of energy and style, and that just motivates me and makes me feel a lot more positive to do all the stuff that I want to do. After reading this book, I got that confidence that I can just go out there and do what I want to do in order to become the person that I want to be and make the impression and change that I want to make on the world. It is such a good book in that respect for me. I'm also going to make a summary / review of this one pretty soon on the channel. Because of that collab, I got my hands on it. I know that it is a very expensive book because it is such great in quality. If you are thinking about buying this book, I'll just say that close your eyes, go forward and buy it. I'm sure you'll not regret it because it is such a positive and motivational book. I just want to go forward and reread it again as soon as I can because I know that it will boost me each and every time. The next book is by an author whom I have not read a lot from, but I have liked each and every one of his books that I've read so far, and it is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Now, if I'm not wrong, this is one of the books in which Stephen King has actually implemented the concept of time travel and in the story. I'll not be able to summarize the story properly for you guys without reading the book, so I'm just going to read the synopsis from the dust jacket, and here it goes. Jake Epping is an English teacher in Lisbon Falls, Maine, who makes extra money teaching in an adult education program. One day he receives an essay from one of his students, a harrowing first-person story about the night 50 years earlier when Harry Dunning's father came home and killed Harry's mother, his sister and his brother with a sledgehammer. Later, Jake's friend Al, who runs the local diner, divulges an extraordinary secret. His storeroom is a portal to 1958. He enlists Jake on an insane and insanely possible mission to try to prevent the Kennedy assassination. Inspired by his desire to put things right for Harry Dunning, Jake leaves a world of iPods and mobile phones for a new world of Elvis and JFK, of big American cars, root beers and Lindy hopping. It is a haunting world of a troubled loner named Lee Harvey Oswald and a beautiful high school librarian named Sadie Dunhill, who becomes the love of Jake's life, a life that transgresses all the normal rules of time. With extraordinary imaginative power, King explores the culture of the era and weaves it into a devastating experience in escalating suspense. 11/22/63 is a love story, a tribute to a simpler time and place, and a heart-stopping what-if tour de force, the like of which no one has ever read. It sounds insanely complicated and convoluted for me, but I know that Stephen King will do a great job of doing that because he's very much well versed in narrating stories within stories, right? So I do trust him with this. Once I finish reading it, I'll definitely review it here. The next one is another non-fiction book, and it is And Now and Here by Osho. I have heard a lot of things about Osho's books and his seminars before, and I have heard only mixed views and feelings about them from different people that I've seen so far, and I want to give his books a try and see how it works for me. If you have read this book, please do let me know down in the comments what I can expect from it and what kind of book this is. It is also very huge, so I'm sure that it is going to take me quite a bit of time to read. Let's just wait and see whether this author works out for me or not. The next one is one of my favorite self-help books. I've actually read this one also, and I'm going to reread it this year as soon as I can. It is 13 Steps to Bloody Good Wealth by Ashwin Sanghi and Sunil Dalal. I just picked up this book on a whim because it was recommended by Manpreet from Indian Booktuber so many times in her channel, and I'm so glad that I read it in 2021 because it was an extremely knowledgeable book for me. So if you're someone who's 15 or over in age, I'd highly suggest you to try this as soon as you can because the sooner you read it, the better it'll be for you. I have read it before and I'm so glad that I have a copy of it now. The last book in this book haul is The First Phone Call from Heaven by Mitch Albom. I have read so many other books by Mitch Albom before this one, and this is the weakest of all his books that I've read so far because all of the other books that I've read by him are based on real life stories, but this one is not like that. It is completely imaginative and it's about the small town in the US where people get phone calls from the people who are dead in their lives, and this just starts out like a huge event and that small town becomes very famous because of that. I'd not recommend anyone to read this one if you've read any of his other books because I think all of them are far better than this one. So yeah, that's the last book inside the book haul. So yes guys, those are all the 16 books that I've brought to you in this first book haul of 2023. I just hope that I finish reading all of these as quick as I can and enjoy each and every bit of them. I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and if you did like watching it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.